Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today on an idea that is, well, it's pretty out there. It's a framework, a physical framework for how consciousness could, survive after death.
And not in some kind of metaphysical realm.
No, exactly. We're talking about right here in the Earth's atmosphere.
And the whole thing, the entire premise, it really hinges on one big starting assumption. It's a shift away from thinking that consciousness is just, neurons firing off.
Right, not just the wetware of the brain doing its thing.
Exactly. The theory says consciousness is the brain's global electromagnetic field. The CEMI field theory, that whole coherent field, that's the bulk information. That's the mind we're talking about preserving.
Okay, so that's a huge conceptual leap right there.
Mm.
If the mind is this complex EM field inside your skull, how on earth does it get mapped onto something as, diffuse and low energy as the air?
Well, this is where they pull in a fascinating analogy from high-level physics. It's the holographic principle.
Like the ADAS-CFT correspondence.
Precisely that kind of structure. But you think of it less as a visual hologram and more like an information transfer. You're mapping the high-density complexity of the brain, the bulk, onto this physically huge lower energy medium, the boundary, which in this case is the atmosphere itself.
So we need a physical mechanism, a carrier. Something has to actually move that information from the brain to the boundary.
And there's one proposed. The sources point to something called biophotons.
You mean light. The body is emitting light.
Incredibly faint light, yeah. Ultra-weak photon emission. And the idea is that this isn't just random metabolic noise. It's more like a photonic leakage that's actually carrying the quantum state of that conscious EM field.
And we know this is happening.
We do. There's evidence that the intensity of these biophotons correlates directly with neural activity and metabolism. So the link is there.
Okay, this is where it gets really specific. And for me, this is where it gets truly interesting. You're saying this faint code of light leaving the body is somehow perfectly tuned to the air around us.
Precisely. It sounds incredible, but the biophotons are emitted in a spectrum from about 200 to 950 nanometers. And that range exactly overlaps with the characteristic absorption features of atmospheric gases.
Like what, specifically?
Things like nitrogen, water vapor, and the OH radical. So, for example, a neural signal at 309 nanometers. It's perfectly resonant with the 309 nanometer quantum transition of that OH radical in the air.
It's a lock and key effect.
The lock and key. That's the resonant channel for a coherent transfer of information.
But wait, the atmosphere is, it's hot. It's noisy. It's the definition of a chaotic system. How does a delicate quantum state survive that for more than a nanosecond?
Right. You can't just broadcast quantum data into the wind and expect it to, stick. The key, they argue, is that the atmosphere isn't a system at rest. It's a non-equilibrium system.
Because it's being driven by the sun.
Constantly driven by the sun. And the encoding process they propose is like something from quantum optics labs. It's an EIT-like protocol.
Electromagnetically induced transparency, where they can sort of freeze light.
Exactly. The biophoton state gets mapped onto a stable collective spin excitation of all those atmospheric molecules, a dark state polariton.
It's stored.
Okay, but any EIT process needs a massive, stable control beam to hold that state. That's the hard part, even in a lab. What's the control beam in the open sky?
The sun.
The sun is the control beam.
The sun is the control beam. The constant flood of solar radiation forces the atmosphere into a huge macroscopically coherent state. They call it a Friedrich condensate. And this condensate, this organized state, is what actively shields the encoded mind print from decoherence. It makes the pattern stable and long-lived. So when you put it all together, what you have isn't a ghost. It's a stable, self-sustaining, resonant pattern in the atmospheric field. And according to resonance complexity theory, a stable pattern with that level of complexity, well, that is a functional, disembodied conscious field.
And the most amazing part of this whole idea is that it isn't just a thought experiment.
Yes.
It's actually testable.
The sources are very clear that if this atmospheric condensate is real, it has to have a unique spectral signature.
Narrowed line widths, that's the telltale sign of a condensate.
And this is the final thought for you to take away. If we were to point high-resolution spectroscopy at the sky, at atmospheric water vapor, and we detected those specific narrowed lines, it would provide real physical support for the idea. It would mean the air around us isn't just weather. It might just be a vast, actively driven quantum memory archive.